What's going on, guys? It's Tyler from the Keep Pounding Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today, we're going to be going over my predictions for the 53-man roster. Who is a lock? Who are some surprise cuts? I'm going to be giving my opinions on that. And I first want to go over who I believe. Who was the what was the initial 53-man roster count for each position back in last year, back in 2024? So we initially had two quarterbacks, three running backs, seven wide receivers, three tight ends, 10 offensive linemen, seven defensive linemen, four outside linebackers, four inside linebackers, five corners, five safeties, and three special teams. So I think that might change a little bit, but let's get into it. So we're obviously going to pick two quarterbacks here. No surprise. You have Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, Jake Plummer, and Bryce Perkins. Obviously, the two they're going to pick is Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. I do think after the showing of Jack Plummer this preseason, I do believe they're going to eventually move on and try to find a different prospect. He was not in preseason. He looked horrible. He seemed like he was getting better compared to last season. He was making some improvements on the during practice, but preseason games he looked horrible. So could they put Bryce Perkins in there instead? I thought Bryce Perkins did okay given the amount of time he was given to get acclimated with the offensive plays calling. So do they stick with Jack Plummer on the practice squad? I don't think so. But quarterback, I believe they're just obviously they're going to take two. Running backs. So you have Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, Trevor Etienne, Raheem Blackshear, Karen Lynch Adams, and Imani Bailey. So I do think they'll stick with three again, like they did last year. Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, and Trevor Etienne. Trevor Etienne has done a really fantastic job this preseason. I do think he deserves more reps as the season goes on, especially if he continues to develop. And he has really made himself a name for the special teams. I do believe Raheem Blackshear will be cut. I do think if they are able to, they'll bring him back to the practice squad because he is a decent running back. He does bring value to special teams. So if they're able to put him on practice squad, I do think that's something that they'll do. And then next year, whenever Jonathan Brooks is healthy, we'll see what happens with Rico Dowdle. So, but three running backs this year. I have wide receivers. So the wide receivers we have in total, you have Tedda Rolla McMillan, Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Hunter Renfro, Jimmy Horn Jr., David Moore, Jacoby George, TJ Luther, Kobe Hudson, and Jasim Reed. And I do think they'll keep seven, but I think this will be a little surprising. I can see them maybe do six. I was on the fence with this because I really thought Jimmy Horn was a lock, but as the preseason, second preseason, well, both actually, even during FanFest, Jimmy Horn Jr., you didn't really see that much except for the Steelers game. And there's a lot of fire, there's a lot of momentum with his name going into practice throughout the training camp and during the offseason, but it kind of stopped a lot during preseason, I think. And then, so the seven I have is Teddarilla McMillan, Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Renfro, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Bryson Tremaine. I don't think David Moore will make the initial 53-man roster. I do think that if he's able to clear waivers, he will be put back on the practice squad. To me, he's a decent veteran, but there's a lot of competition at the wide receiver room, and I just don't see him making the initial 53. But I do think ideally he will make the practice squad. I do think he'll clear waivers, but you never know. And then Bryson Tremaine. I actually really like Bryson Tremaine with when they played the Browns. I thought he did a really, really good job. He was in there with the twos. He was consistent. He kind of like reminded me of Jalen Coker last year, like how he just was making play after play and it just showed a lot of consistency. So, and then you bring in when the Panthers play the Steelers, and they sat out Bryson Tremaine due to body soreness. So if you're not planning on keeping a guy or not sure about a guy, you're going to let him play. Just the general body soreness. You had Teddarilla McMillan that had body soreness. He sat out because he's obviously a clear starter. So with Bryson Tremaine not really having any injuries, just soreness, and he sits out, I think that's a clear indicator that they're going to keep him on the wide receiver initial 53-man roster. I do see possibly, depending on what they feel about Jimmy Horn Jr., again, I really thought he was a lock, but based on what I've been seeing at the tail end of the preseason games, and the steam kind of decreasing a little bit, I wouldn't be totally shocked if Jimmy Horn Jr. doesn't make the initial 53 man roster. I do think if he doesn't make the initial cut, I do think he'll be picked off waivers. I just don't know what the Panthers are thinking with this. It wouldn't surprise me. I'll be a little surprised, but it wouldn't totally surprise me if Jimmy Horn is not on the initial 53 and Bryson Tremaine is. So those are the 7 that I have, but I do think ultimately you keep Jimmy Horn Jr. He made a lot of good plays. He was unguardable. JC Horn had a lot of good things to say about him. So I do think they'll keep 7, but we'll see. Tight ends. So I have them taking 3 tight ends. I could see them taking 4 because of the injuries that's going on here. But I do ultimately think that they'll pick only 3. I do think it'll be Tavian Sanders, Tommy Trimble, and Mitchell Evans. I do think James Mitchell did a fantastic job while Tommy Trimble was out. Obviously, Tommy Trimble's back off the PUP list. But James Mitchell is somebody that if we keep on the initial 53, I won't be mad. If he is some reason not on the initial 53, which I don't think he will, in my opinion, I do think that they'll try to take him off of, or they'll try to put him in the practice squad. But I do see him coming off waivers. He was a surprise cut from the Colts, I believe, and the Colts fans had a lot of good things to say about him. So he's somebody that I could see them taking for because of how he played this offseason and in the preseason game and the injuries that's going on with the tight end room. But I have them taking 3. Offensive linemen. So I have them obviously taking Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, Icky, Timo, Austin Corbett, Chandler Savala is going to stay. Cade Mays is going to stay unless for some reason there's a trade, but I don't think that's going to happen. Brady Christensen and Josh Neisman. I do think they could take Jarrett Kingston here. I don't. I have them waiving him, cutting him. That's someone I could possibly see that gets picked up on the initial 53. I think also Luke Kandra. I don't think Carter will be on there, or Lasoya or Walton. But I do think if they do take a 10, it will be between Jarrett Kingston and Luke Kandra. But we'll see. Defensive line, I was kind of back and forth with this. I have them taking 6. I do see them possibly taking 7, and or taking changing one of the guys I have at the bottom that I think is going to make the initial 53 and making a switch. But obviously, DB is going to be on there. Ashawn Robinson, Bobby Brown III, Tershawn Wharton, Cam Jackson, and I do think they'll take Jaden Crumedy. I think Jaden Crumedy did pretty solid during this preseason and offseason. I do think that they possibly could keep Sam and or maybe switch Jaden with Sam Roberts or add a 7th defensive lineman and put Sam Roberts in there. I could also possibly see them bring in LeBrian Ray, but I don't think they will. I think it'll be Cam Jackson and Jaden Crumedy will be at the bottom, the last 2 available in the defensive line. But finally, I do think they'll finally get rid of Shy Tuttle. I would be pretty shocked if they kept Shy Tuttle. They're going to save money on the cap unless they just don't feel good about Cam Jackson. I do think Shy Tuttle will be out, but for some reason they don't feel good about Cam Jackson or Jaden Crumedy. Maybe they keep Shy, but I don't think so. Edge, I do see them taking 5. I could see 6. I have them obviously taking DJ Wanham, Patrick Jones II, Nick Scorton, Princely, Human Yellen, DJ Johnson. If they do pick a 6, I think Thomas Incoom could be the 6. I just felt like he did pretty poor during the preseason. I'm not sure how he looked during OTAs and during training camp and how he looked during joint practices. But I felt like it was somebody that could possibly make the 53s, could be right on the bubble. But I just felt like he overall did pretty poor during the preseason, specifically the Browns. Inside linebackers, I have them taking 5. I think they'll be taking Trevin Wallace, Christian Roseboom, Chris Barnes, Bam Martin Scott, and Clayton Sherless. Last year they took 5 as well, so I think they'll do 5 again this year. But to me, I would be shocked if this isn't the 5. I feel maybe John Radigan, but I feel like Clayton Sherless is probably a lock. Bam Martin Scott, I can see between Bam Martin Scott and John Radigan, but I think Bam Martin Scott had a better training camp and better preseason. Corners, I have them It should be 5. I don't know why I put 6 here. It should be 5. So J.C. Horn, Mac Jackson, Shaw Smith Wade, Corey Thornton, and Michael Reed. I thought Shamar Bartholomew was going to be a lock, but how he played the last several weeks before the during the preseason and how he looked during joint practices, he was getting burned, bro. And I know like he was playing against Nico Collins, like you have your cornerback 4 or 5 that's going against your number 1 wide receiver. You should get beat, but he just did not look good. I felt like I just felt like the way he played, it just the last several weeks it looked really really bad. I wouldn't be surprised if they do keep Shamar Bartholomew and they just move Corey Thornton, like Corey Thornton being the number 4 corner and Shamar being the number 5. But I felt like Michael Reed did a pretty good job as well during preseason. So this is my 5 that I have. Safeties, I do think they'll only carry 4. Obviously, Trevor Moehrig, Nick Scott, Damani Richardson, and Lathan Ransom. Lathan Ransom, I do think I can see him slowly, uh, getting the starting position over Nick Scott. Lathan Ransom looks really good. He's going to be a really good special teams as well. But to me, Lathan Ransom is going to be our long-term safety moving forward. He's still has a lot of development. He had some missed tackles, but I feel like he is a big bright spot. And it's really, really great to see. We finally have a GM that can hit on later rounds. It's always been first round, maybe second round we hit, but all the later rounds we never could. So Lathan Ransom has been a really, really good. Obviously, Trevor Etienne, Cam Jackson has been good. We've had some really good contributing late round picks. I'm very, very pleased about that. But I have 4. The kicker, I do think it's ultimately going to be Ryan Fitzgerald, but I don't think he will be the one that's going to be kicking week 1. I do. The Steelers, when we played against the Steelers, they have 2 really good kickers. The left footed kicker, I think, will be the one that's going to be cut. He did a really good job. I think he was 4-4 or 5-5 against us and looked far more consistent than either Matthew Wright or Ryan Fitzgerald. But I do think they'll pick Ryan Fitzgerald, but I think ultimately they're going to cut him and sign or maybe even trade a late round pick for a kicker. I doubt that will happen, but I could see them maybe giving them a 7th, but I just think it's going to be Ryan Fitzgerald. And then ultimately, I think they're going to cut him and then they're going to put him, they're going to assign someone else. You obviously have Sam Martin. This is somebody that he did okay, but I think he did a little bit overall. I would give him like a C minus, D plus. He had some decent kicks, but overall, like he would out kick his coverage a lot. So this is something I'm kind of concerned about. We'll see. I do think maybe they look into see who's getting cut out there, and maybe there could be an option out there for us to sign somebody that would be an upgrade over Sam Martin. But this is obviously who they're going to put on the 53-man roster. And then obviously you have long snapper JJ Jansen. That's going to be our long snapper here. So that's who I have for the 53-man roster, who I think is going to make the team and who's going to get cut. I still don't think that Dan Morgan is ultimately done with making moves. I think I could see another corner being signed, an inside linebacker being signed. I could see another guard because we saw how bad our guards were after you had Damian Lewis that was out. You had Chandler Zavala out. We did see the depth there was not good at all. It was not good. So I could see that. So maybe another safety, but I doubt it. But I think overall, if they do sign, it'll be kicker, inside linebacker, or corner. So drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Who's going to be, if you agree or disagree with what my thoughts were. Leave a like if you haven't hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I'm Tyler from the Keep Pounding podcast, and I'm excited to see who will make the 53-man roster on Tuesday. We'll see. Keep pounding, guys. You have a good one. Peace.